Welcome to Conversation 473, a special edition of the program. Tonight, we're not usually on Sunday nights, but we thought we should come on and speak about issues that have developed over the last 12 hours, 12 to 20 hours or so in Grenada. A police-involved shooting in Guave has sparked unrest in that community. So we want to talk about that. We have several incidents of police shootings in which people have died. In this case, Jamal is the young Jamal Charles, also known as Wedgie, from Guave, was shot early this morning by police. They were on an operation. They were looking for someone else. I believe it was his brother, and ended up shooting him in that incident. As we understand it, no one was armed. And while there was some sort of confrontation with the police, there did not appear to be any clear and imminent danger that would justify the use of excessive force to the point of pulling out your firearm and shooting at somebody, because we know whenever you pull out a gun, it is deadly force and can result in a big tragedy. So we're going to be talking about that tonight. We'll talk about police conduct, the way the police have been doing business in Grenada, and how they've engaged with citizens. We'll discuss that. Earl Maitland is here. Earl Maitland has been a champion at the front of the fight for justice and fairness, and calling for an end to police misconduct and police brutality in Grenada, which is quickly developing over the last few years into some sort of culture. And of course, Kitaka is here, and Rolanda is here, my two usual suspects on the program tonight. It's a special edition of Conversation 473. I know people weren't expecting us, so if you've come on and you have the link, please do share it around so that we can have viewers join in the discussion. Of course, we welcome the comments from viewers and on whatever topics we are discussing. Oh, welcome to the program, Rolanda, Kitaka. I hope nobody had big plans for Sunday nights, and I hope everybody's wine was, nobody had wine chilling that they had to put off drinking as a result of our special edition of Conversation 473.
Well, I didn't have wine chilling, but I was drinking some Mont Pure and kick back a Sundays myself, Keddy. When I got the message, but I was like, part of me was like, but part of it was, Conversation 473 is the voice of the people, and we have to speak out and do things. So I say, just duty calls. So here I am.
I went today.
You sure it's Mont Pure you were drinking?
He said he was chasing. Today I went, Kita. I was cutting spice, a load of spice. There was just so much spice. I was quite surprised and I only got to about maybe 6 trees. So, and I have to show you my baby piglets.
Okay. So Earl, you're still stuck in Antigua, is it? But keeping an eye on things here at home, yes?
Yes, that is correct. I'm still in Antigua, awaiting the official reopening of Grenada's MBIA. I do know, however, that there are other persons as well stuck around the world who are in worse conditions than I am. Just recently, some persons were kicked out of the places which they resided abroad. But luckily, they were taken in by some other Grenadian citizens who are also in the same predicament, but just in a bit more of a comfortable situation. But I'm here and I'm going to use this opportunity, if you all permit me, to ask the government to take this situation treated more urgently, as persons are in some of the most dire situations. So thank you once again for.
Of course, it's always our pleasure. I saw interviews with Grenadians. I saw one woman. She's diabetic. She has to pay for her own medicine. She's out of money. She's living in a place where the person can only afford to give them some food when the day comes. She can't afford her medicine the strips to do the tests for her level, her blood sugar level, her insulin level, and so on. So a lot of people, in as you said, in dire straits out there, and the government seeming unable to do something about it. Grenadians being asked to find their own way home under their own steam. And when your citizens are suffering, you need to step up and do something. It's not going to cost $100 million to get the Grenadians home. It probably isn't even going to cost $20 million to get them home. And I think that that kind of thing is to show that kind of love for your citizens. It is probably the greatest demonstration of caring for the citizens that this government can show if they would make the sacrifice and bring these people home. Really, it is disgraceful. If people are comfortable and happy where they are, it's one thing, but people are being put out on the streets and so on. In England, people can't even find the High Commissioner, Keisha Grant, not in office for days on end, and people can't find her. I'm not sure what she's doing, if she's shopping or what she's doing, but people can't find her. Not surprising actually, but they really need to step up and treat the citizens out of Grenada with a bit more respect. The citizens in Grenada too, of course, but at least we can still get a breadfruit off the tree here. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that down to the end of the program, but we advertised the police shooting and the unrest in Guelph. So let's get to that. We have some clips of what's been happening. I think we have a clip showing the young man, Jamal Charles, being carried away for medical attention, being carried quite, Good Samaritans were taking him for medical assistance, but of course he was not being carried properly. He didn't seem to have, an ambulance there with stretchers and everything to carry him, which could, quite easily have worsened his condition. So we'll show that clip of the incident soon after the incident, I suppose, although I understand that he was there bleeding for a while and the police seemed to be lost and didn't know what to do next after the shot was fired. I heard a name being mentioned. The officer who was supposed to be is allegedly involved in this police shooting, said to be Garcia. We don't have a number for him right now, or a full name, in fact. I'm sure his full name is out there. I don't have it at my fingertips. In the police involved shooting a police officer whose jacket is not clean in terms of his reports and things that ought not to be done by police officers, as far as I understand it. So, Kitaka, can we see that clip and we're going to follow that up with the clip of the unrest, but we'll talk a little bit about that before we go to the unrest clip. So let's see that, Kitaka.
I get everything on the camera.
You might go in already, boy. I don't want it properly. They can fuck up.
Let it go, let it go.
Wait. How good night am I?
You know, it is it is difficult not to get extremely angry when you those videos. I mean, you know, tossing this guy up into the back of the vehicle tree, and not even giving him proper care and taking him for the medical attention that he was supposed to get. I am not surprised at the second video which we saw, which was citizens taking action and showing their anger. I certainly hope that the movement that has been sparked by Jamal Charles's shooting does not fizzle out and die, because what will happen is it will open the door for another son to be treated in such a manner. I mean, what we just saw there is disgraceful, to say the least. We're talking about a big town like Wharf, where you know they couldn't call and have an ambulance show up in 5 minutes. Um, it's it's really a sad thing to watch. But Earl,
Well,
it's not a new thing. I mean, so far this young man, he I think he survived this. I haven't received any news yet of whether or not he 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 made it. But we've had what? We've had one, two, three, four, five, six since 2011. Six people have died in police involved shootings or in police custody. We had Oscar Bartholomew, whose family did not rest and who took action and got justice. We have Claudius Paul, that was in 2011. Claudius Paul, 2013. Cameron Peters, 2015. Uh, Bruce Briggs, 2016. Kevin Downs, 2016. And remember that issue with Kevin Downs, where it's actually the police who shot the other police officer, and they ended up opening fire on this guy. Yes, he had firearms, but the shot that killed the police officer in that incident did not come from him, and this later came out. And then there's Jerry Paul, 2016. And now another police involved shooting, and we've had a number of police involved shootings since 2016 to now, of course. So we're looking at six people who have died, and this guy being shot today. Are we seeing a pattern, Earl? Are we seeing a trend with the police?
Yes, actually, I do believe we are seeing a pattern, and it's one that is very diabolical. This, as you said, is something that has continued over the years. We have lost many persons at the hands of the police. If we were going to speak about police shootings, in 2016, we at least lost 5 persons who were reported by the media that were killed at the hands of police. Some included mentally ill persons who the police responded knowing that the persons were mentally challenged. For instance, Jerry Paul, a gentleman who resided in Mount Parnassus, St. George, was shot by some police officers because he had in his possession a cutlass. And the threat was not there. We're speaking about some officers being called in. Some officers of the RGPF are being called in to deal with a situation with a mentally challenged person, a known mentally challenged person. And this person only has a cutlass. And the threat of a cutlass would be at least like 5 feet away. Within a 5 feet distance, you're in no threat, you know. And this man was shot and killed by police. We have also had Bruce Briggs, who was deaf and he was unable to speak. He was the son of somebody. He was the brother of somebody. He was a friend of somebody. There was no proper investigation done. Um, we also had the situation with Oscar Bartholomew. We had so many situations with police shootings and police brutality and using force that it is not funny. And I believe that this pattern continues because the community relations department, the persons who are in charge of doing the investigations, which is the internal affairs of the Royal Grenada Police Force, they are allowing these things to continue. The DPP really needs to step up and get something done. You know, just last week, we saw the brother of Cameron Peters on MTV News speaking about his brother being killed in CID and was said to be found hanging since 2015. Now, the media took on this challenge to try to seek some sort of justice for this gentleman, They went to Mr. Vanny Cohen, who is the person in charge of CRD, and all he was saying to the media is that this information is actually public. This information, this whole situation of the hanging of this 20-year-old gentleman was actually investigated in of a jury and whatever. But the family is not aware. They have never been aware of any investigations. They have seen no documents. They have requested the documents from Mr. Vanny Cohen, from Commissioner, ex-Commissioner Mr. Winston James, and the present Commissioner, Mr. Edwin Martin, and none of these persons have been given justice all this time. It's very disgusting, and this really needs to change.
And even with the incident of the young man who was found dead in the cell hanging, the fact of the matter is whether no conclusive information has been provided on how he died. But the point of the matter is that I feel that the police should still be held responsible, even if it's just that they allowed him to be in the cell with something that he could have used to harm himself. They're still responsible because the regulations say that a person ought not to be put in a cell with something that can harm themselves. So either way, they still bear some great level of responsibility in this young man's death. And it certainly was very, very suspicious. And I hope the family is able to get some kind of information and some kind of justice, because at some point we would see more and more of our people dying at the hands of the police if these things go without any sort of punishment or repercussions. In the Oscar Bartholomew case, police officers have been criminally charged with manslaughter, and some are facing civil consequences. But in a lot of these cases, very few police officers that I've heard of who have been arrested and charged for manslaughter or non-capital murder or even capital murder.
If
I
I could
remember.
just,
Sorry, I remember. I was in the point and granting some friends, and there were some guys gambling, and then all of a sudden, all hell break loose. There was police everywhere with guns drawn, serious, cars. They were just pointing guns. There was children running around in the yard. You know what it was for? There were people gambling. And I've seen it happen twice. I also saw it happen in Mamacan. So people gambling. There was children running around playing in the yard. And the thing they called the special branch was there run. I mean, you would not have believed was for gambling. They would be acting like that with big machine guns just because people was gambling. I'm looking at this thing now. Was it an accident in England, a big place like England? Our policemen are not armed. The ones that are armed are the special branch, people that are trained properly. So if they are going in a situation where they think there may be danger, their life will be in danger. These are the police that will go into places like that. It seems like every time somebody lift up their waistband here or their shirt, they have a gun. We're becoming very, very much like America, where everyone, all the police, I don't know, you can tell me, once you're a policeman or woman, are you entitled to have a gun? Earl, a question for you.
so not every officer, because they need training. For instance, in the Royal Grenada Police Force, we have the rural constables. We have the rank from constable, corporal, sergeant, and going all the way up. They do need the training, just as even civilians could possess these firearms, but they need the relevant trainings as well. Now that brings me to the part where I personally believe, and I have recognized, that 6 months training and sometimes even 3 months training, when they are trying to rush persons out of the training camps to put them on the streets to protect and serve, this is absolutely not enough time. Now, how could we have some officers responding to a scene with a gentleman who's mentally disturbed, who only possesses a cutlass, and they are unable to disarm this gentleman without taking his life. And it is to no fault of his because he is mentally disturbed. Now, someone in the chat just spoke about a gentleman that went missing since 2013. He was taken into police custody. That gentleman's name is Claudius St. Paul. He was also known as Tittery. Now, I have personally reported this situation to Mr. Edwin Martin, who asked me to go into the CID and give this report, which I did sign to, and nothing has come out of it yet for the last 2 years. So for 7 years, Mr. Claudius St. Paul has been missing, and the Royal Grenada Police Force has refused to release any records of the man's detention or arrest or anything like that. And this is absolutely absurd, and this continues happening over and over. And I believe personally that this shows that even the commissioner of police, the acting commissioner of police, believes that he does not have to answer to the public, which he is supposed to be serving. Now, in a situation like this, the commissioner of police should have held an emergency press conference and assured the people of Grenada that justice will be served, that this situation would not be one that would be ongoing. This is not the first time, based on what I'm hearing, this gentleman was shot by mistake, right? This is not the first time this has happened. 2 years ago, there was an event on the St. Paul's Community Center where a young man, younger than myself, so I believe this young man is about 30 years old now. He was actually shot in his arm. A bullet grazed his arm after a police officer in the Royal Grenada Police Force decided to point his gun into a crowd and discharge it at a gentleman who was holding a cutlass. Now, there are persons who are providing martial arts classes in Grenada. There are persons like Master Melvin Kute, there's Miss Claudia Joseph and all other people, Mr. Dabrio. They are providing these classes. So what is it that our officers are really doing at those training camps? What are they being taught?
Well, I mean, it's no surprise. I mean, Grenada is a small place. I mean, we see a lot of the institutions in our country being significantly deficient in terms of human capital and the people being able to effectively do their jobs. And but for me, like even while looking at this issue, like I am thinking that we may need to move to the point where we have body cams. I don't know if we could afford that, but we need to have body cams on our police officers now, so we could have some sort of level of accountability. Because my thing is, how many of if we are saying that things are so widespread and things happen like that, how many more instances that may go unnoticed, whether it's brutality, whether it's abuse of power, even under this COVID-19 restriction. So I think this calls for a higher level of accountability within the RGPF. And I agree with you all. I mean, even the physical fitness of some of the cops. I see some guys with a lot large bellies and not so fit. They can't run behind anybody. Like, so there's a lot of things that they need to go in terms of training, psychological training, how to deal with different situations, because certain emergencies requires you to go with a different kind of temperament. Certain situations you have to have some empathy and deal with a little bit more finesse. Some situation you have to come with a little bit more brute force. You know, you need some strategic and tactical, plans to get things done. So for me, I think a lot of work needs to be done, because if not, then we will have situations like this. And I'm tired seeing the people of Grenada have to, and all over the world, have to protest all the time and go out and burn things and do all these things to get justice, when the system that we have supposed to be functioning efficiently to ensure that people get that. But as in small islands, we have the situation where people know each other, and then that man have a friend here and a friend there, which could get him out and so on. So for my thing is, a lot needs to be done in terms of training of them, all I agree. But also we need body cam footage. We need this kind of thing for greater level of accountability. And we need swifter action from the top cops and so on in terms of disciplining the troops and keeping them in line and ensuring that they protect and serve the people. And that this thing about mistake, you're correct telling a mother you shoot a son by mistake. And I understand the frustration of the people of Goa right now, because I saw it. But also I saw something very strange where right after the protest, start to party again. So it's like, I mean, the things are so interesting right now. I mean, it's so much things going on right now.
One
On
of the things is that I understand that Vanny Cohen would have brokered some sort of deal and would have quell the protest. I haven't been able to follow up this evening on whether or
Yeah,
not
I saw actually saw the video where Mr. Killer and another guy and the people were there and they were speaking to one convoy because he was appealing to them, speaking to them and saying, like clear up the road and so on and let people pass and so on and they tried to batter. They wanted to go up to 1 o'clock, but they agreed to remove by 12 and then the police came and washed down and clear up the roads and so on. They got permission to turn on the music to play and maybe have a little jump up or whatsoever. But for me, like I thought
But I
that
mean,
energy was
but how
diffused very quickly.
but how could a community even think about having a jump up? Was this some sort of party that Mr. Killer had planned? Who was involved in this jump up? Do you know?
Well, I'm not. You see, for me, I'm not fully sure because I mean, looking online, I'm speaking from looking at live videos and listening to the
Mm-hmm.
dialogue of people on the live videos. You understand? But I don't have the full details in terms of that. But I could have I saw subsequently after music being played and people having and the vibes and atmosphere moving from we need justice to things quelling down very quickly.
so if I
That,
could
that
comment,
Go ahead, Earl.
right now, Kitaka spoke about the body cams. Now, when Mr. was there in 2016 or 2017, I personally wrote Mr. James and asked Mr. James to put body cams on police officers. I have also personally asked Mr. James, as Commissioner of Police, to put cameras in police stations. Now, this was as a result of the killing of Cameron Peters, who died in police custody in 2015. Now, the December of that year, Mr. Winston James got police officers to go onto local media and announced that they were going to put body cameras on our police officers. And this is a move that I supported, not only to protect our civilians from the police officers, but to also protect our police officers from the civilians. But 4 years later, we do not have one police officer in Grenada with a body camera. We do not have, although it was announced on local media 4 years ago by Mr. Winston James, who was the Commissioner of Police. Now we have to wonder what is the real intention of these persons who are being paid to protect and serve. What is their real intention? Do they really want the truth, or do they want to continue covering up all the bad that they are doing? Now, we have laws that have been put in place by persons who came long before us that wrote the books. And these laws have put words into place that could act on behalf of civilians and police officers. It speaks about investigations, it speaks about justice and everything. Now, a typical example would be something that Kalisha mentioned earlier, the gentleman that was found hanging in police custody. And by the way, Kalisha, I think it should be known that the day that the gentleman was found hanging, Superintendent Department CRD said that that gentleman hung himself with a string. And on the second day, he came back to local media and said that that gentleman hung himself with his belt. Now, if this gentleman did actually hang himself with his belt, the police officers who arrested this gentleman and put him in the cell or into the hole and was supposed to take not only his shoelace and his jewelry, but they were also supposed to take his belt, right? And this is what the regulation stipulates. Now, that police officer, seeing that that gentleman, right, was in their custody, the police officer who would have allowed that gentleman to have his belt, as they have alleged, he hung himself with a belt, which makes no sense. But if this is actually what happened, right, someone in the police force should be charged with negligent homicide. Now, I'd like to bring to your attention that sometime in 2017, I believe, after the death of Cameron Peters, there were two adults, a male and a female, who went to one of Grenada's beaches with a 3-year-old child. And that child, Royal Grenada Police Force applied the law of negligent homicide. And they charged the adults and said that they had the responsibility to look after that child and to ensure that that child was safe. And the same is supposed to be applied to any prisoner or any detainee who is in police custody. But what we are seeing here is that these laws that have been put in place to protect everybody, right, these are not being applied. And we have to ask again, what is the real intention of the DPP, the police prosecutors, and the Ministry of Legal Affairs? What is their real intention? And this is why persons continue to ask over the last few decades that the Royal Grenada Police Force does not look into these police shootings and cases of brutalities. And Kalisha, you are very aware. Yes,
Oh,
Kita.
quick question. Since you're on that line, there's a comment here from Kellan where he's saying there has to be an independent police complaints bureau. I don't think the police force should investigate the police. What say you guys about that? Us having to get an independent body to really take these matters serious, like because the police force has been doing a terrible job in terms of dealing with those matters.
So you know,
But you have, when you say independent body, Kitaka, there always seems to be a lot of independent bodies around. When something happened, and I will go back to this thing by Habit Spice Mass, we had somebody come in there, one of the CEO, and have a huge news conference saying that they're going to be a full investigation. No stone was going to be left unturned. It's been a year and nothing. The same, everything that happened, we always say they have independent bodies and nothing happening. Urban Heat said this shit is too political. So it seems when somebody does something that is wrong, rather we investigating it, it becomes very, very political. So nothing is being done about it. So get to investigate. As I said, look at my case. It is nothing as bad as this person getting shot. There are the people that are going to investigate. When we went to court, they say there is all different type of bodies and there are this organization and there is nothing. There is nothing. People have been lied to. You know, when you find people have been lied to, they tell you there is organization, there are different bodies to investigate things when it happens. Please, I'm only in Grenada for 4 years, and I could tell you it's all a lie. They say these things just to make you feel quiet because they know in a couple of days' time, Grenadians would forget about it. There is too many organizations, even with the teachers' union. You hear the union going the demonstration for the teachers, then you hear nothing about it. So I don't believe any of that.
now in Grenada.
Well, I mean,
Kalisha, go ahead. Sorry.
no, I was saying that we do need an internal affairs bureau within the police force and a bureau that will investigate complaints against police officers. I've had experience with how the process for dealing with complaints against police officers works, and it is woefully inadequate, and it will continue. Police officers will continue to feel this sense of entitlement to treat citizens whoever they want and to break the law so recklessly all the time against citizens because there isn't a proper fair mechanism to investigate police officers and to bring them to justice. The police likes to, these days they've been boasting a lot. Vanny Cohen and Acting Commissioner Edwin Martin, they've been boasting a lot, and ACP Prince and Assistant Commissioner Prince as well, about them investigating their own. A few police officers have been arrested and charged and sent to jail for sexual offences, and they've been waving that banner as if the track record is so great in dealing with police misconduct and criminal acts by the police. But that is not the case, because if you have 10 offenses and only one or two gets dealt with, then the batting average is worse than West Indies cricket scores. So the, there needs to be a proper independent body for investigating the police. The police cannot investigate themselves. That is not going to work. That doesn't make any sense, really. Nobody could possibly think that that makes any sense. And for all the years that it has been that way, we have seen the result of it, of police brutality and police misconduct getting worse over time, because people are not being taken to task for the things that they do. The other areas that are lacking when it comes to the police force, yes, body cams, that would be helpful too, but also police officers should carry tasers. It is not in every circumstance that you need a loaded weapon that can kill you. And yes, a taser can kill somebody with a pre-existing condition. We know that. But certainly a taser is less deadly than a gun. And so one of the things that the Minister of National Security, Prime Minister Dr. Keith Mitchell, needs to find budgets for the police for are tasers, so that the police officers, your man has a cutlass and is coming towards you and is being threatening, or you can't get him to stand down, then you can resort to using a taser to get the person under control. And the other issues, I'm hearing that the police officer who allegedly pulled the trigger in this incident in Guave this Sunday is having, he's going through some psychological trauma because he has issues within his personal situation, that I believe his wife is ill, and someone told me today, terminally ill. And that again is another problem. Police officers need to have psychological evaluations to determine whether or not, number one, they should be on the street, and most importantly, whether or not they should be carrying a firearm. You cannot allow a mentally unstable person to carry a firearm. And the police, if in fact this man is going through some sort of traumatic experience and is not in a good place mentally, then he had no right being on an operation. He certainly had no right being given access to a firearm. And if the police did not know, if in fact he has those problems, and the police, his commanding officers were unaware of it, then they again are at fault. And if it comes out that yes, he does have psychological issue, then one of the things that must be explored is how that would have the failure of his commanding officers to deal with his psychological problems would have contributed to the shooting of somebody's son in Guave. And those are the things that we don't take seriously here. Those things are not at the top of our priority list. The police, the fire department is under the police force. It's a department within the police force, but they can't even afford hoses. They go to out fires with hoses with a whole bunch of hole in them. We barely have fire trucks. So the idea of the police needs to be better taken care of. The police needs a big budget. This is law and order and security, and they need a big budget both to be able to pay for the services that police officers need, like psychological evaluation and so, plus the equipment that they need, body cams and tasers and other non-lethal weapons in order to deal with situations. I remember several years ago, it could be probably 20 years or so, they were chasing in a drug bust. They were chasing a man on a bike. I can't, his name doesn't come to mind right now. It's one of the shootings that I recollect from a very long time ago. And they were chasing him up the Western Main Road. And there aren't many places for somebody riding a bike to go to evade the police. But they shot him and killed him. They could have just chased him all the way to, Grenada isn't that big. You can actually conduct a chase with somebody and they're not going to be able to get away from you. But what they did was shoot him on the bike. It was believed that they were trying to shoot out the tires, all Hollywood movie style. They could have chased him and contacted the Grand Roy police station and the Guelph police station, because they shot him somewhere in Perseverance. And there are like 3-4 police stations along the way. You have the Grand Roy, Guelph, Victoria, Samaritan, and then the Sauteurs police station 5 actually up the Western Road, where they could have called up and say, this guy is coming up on a bike, we're chasing him, stop him. But they didn't do that. The police in Grenada are just too trigger happy. And they are trigger happy because there are no consequences for police involved shootings.
Well, Kalisha, you are right in saying that the condition that the police work from is not nice place. When you go, I visited some of these police stations, and the smell that you get from the station, I think it is so wrong that our government will allow police to work in them type of condition. It stinks. When they have no air, the offices are really hot. They have no air condition. I had a situation with a fire where I went to the fire station. The office smell of mold. The officers and them have no chairs that they can sit on, and then they have this huge station wagon from China making us look like there are so much criminals in Grenada. Maybe they should get that money to give the police better facilities. As you said, a taser. I'm sure China will make a few cheap tasers when they're giving them these big station wagons, and throw a few tasers in these big station wagons, and a few chairs, a few desks, and make our police being able to work for a cleaner and better and more comfortable environment. When you treat people, when you treat your workers, when we treat our policemen like criminals, when they go out there, they act the same. If you do not look after people, how do you expect them to act when they go out there? They don't take anything in respect because we're not respecting them. So, that is something we have to look at the station. The police should never have to work in this type of condition. Even if you go up in headquarters, have you seen the state of headquarters?
So, Ms. McQueen, I understand what you're saying, but what I would say is that there are so many professions in Grenada that have been underprivileged. They are under acknowledged. They are underpaid. The police officers in Grenada get much more money than other persons, and the services, for example, teachers go through worse conditions than police officers. But the service that they deliver, the passion that they have for their jobs, they still continue to deliver to the children. What I would say is that any police officer has any issue with the smell of the place and so on, they can voice their concern. They could bring it to the persons in authority. They could go to the PSC. They could go to their commanding officers. But it should not reflect the treatment that they are meting out to citizens in Grenada. There are too many of them that are too slack and too comfortable, right? They have recognized that much isn't done. There's hardly any investigations. There are a few things that are highly recognized in Grenada. First thing is tourism. The second thing is loans and grants. The third thing is conflicts of interest. This is where we have police officers investigating police officers. And the fourth thing, this is a police force that we had a teenage fella, a young man, was able to infiltrate the Royal Grenada Police Force. Mr. Akim, whatever his last name is, he was able to work
Andrew
for months. Right, Akim Andrew.
Famous Akim. The famous Akim.
Police force. So it says a lot about even the commanding officers that are there.
But all like the new younger generation, man like Akim looking at Money Heist and Ozark and thing on Netflix, Ocean's 12, 007, strategic brain is on point, but it shows that a lot needs to happen. But I want to see if you guys attention to something that was very serious today. The negotiation film. Did you guys see the negotiation film? Brian Grimes here is saying that the negotiation film today is a demonstration of our Grenadianness and humanity. Some people love to see the spilling of blood and intense conflict between our people. Now, guys, there are people on both sides of the fence sometimes. people who think that the peaceful protest is the way to go to get things moving and to get things going in the country. And those who think that, power to the people, burn it down, make things come to a crumbling halt. Where do you guys sit on that fence? And what were your guys' take on today's happenings? Starting with you all.
Right. Well, so first of all, now this is as Kalisha was saying, we have so many cases of police brutality have been reported to the Community Relations Department, which have ranged back for the last 7 years. Right. So we're speaking about 7 years. So if Mr. Kerwin has done something good today, this is one out of many that he has not discarded. In fact, today he hasn't had the choice. He had to come out. He was being paid and he came out and he did his job. And I really hope that he would continue doing his job, right? In all our sensitization forums, we will never encourage persons to partake in any sort of violence. We would always tell people to stand for your rights. Do not allow your rights to be violated, right? Even the Constitution of Grenada says that we can protect each other and we can protect ourselves from any form of violence. And that is in Chapter 1, Section 2 of the Grenada Constitution. So I am saying that persons in 2020, human beings, Grenadian citizens with rights in 2020, should not have to be protesting, burning the streets and walking through the Hudson like if we're back in the days of Martin Luther King when he walked across that bridge in Selma. This really needs to stop. And again, we have not asked anybody to partake in any sort of violence, but these things, sometimes I would understand when one actually does something like that. I would understand the frustration, the lives that have been lost, the fear, the anger, and especially the fear, because victims of police brutality and the family members of victims of brutality, they would tell you that anytime they see police officers, they would be scared. There's a gentleman in Guelph that continues to complain about the Guelph police station. He has gone to Mr. Vanny Cohen multiple times. I cannot even recall how many times we have gone there. That is Mr. Curtis Thomas. Mr. Curtis Thomas has gone there. The police officers in Guelph actually went into this gentleman's house without a warrant, without identifying themselves, without even traveling in a marked police vehicle, entered the man's house illegally and knocked him out in front of his family, his wife, and his 2 children. And these are the kind of officers that we have. And he went to the CRD department. He has gone to the commissioner of police, who refused to see him, Mr. Martin. He has gone to the governor general, Ms. Lagrenade. She has refused to see him as well. And the worst thing is when he went to the ombudsman's office, and Miss McIntyre and Miss Mary Shaw traveled from St. George to the Guelph police station and inquired, why is this gentleman continuously coming to the ombudsman's office year after year to complain about all of this excessive force and abuse of authority? The officers there and from the commissioner's office wrote a letter to the ombudsman saying that they have no record of any complaint from Mr. Curtis Thomas. Right there and then, Kitaka, he was able to pull out a copy of a complaint that he made to the police that was issued by the police. So they are lying to the people, and people are frustrated. So again, I would say that I do not encourage any sort of violence, but if it does happen, I will understand the frustration of the people.
It's McQueen. Where do you sit in terms of defense? Peaceful protest, violence. What's the best option to get things done?
No, I always believe in peaceful protests. I always believe that, violence does not solve anything. All it does, it hurts. It hurts us and it hurts innocent people. I think if there is peaceful protest, standing up, going, pushing, wherever it is, and peaceful protest, you need support. Even if you do not get support, and there is one woman that protests every year in front of the ministry. I believe in 100% in peaceful protest. But Kitaka, remember, as the Honorable Right, Mr. Farrakhan said, Louis Farrakhan said, the youths of today are a totally different youth that we are seeing now. They're not going to bury their head in the sand anymore. You know, as you said, somebody went up there to try and seize, quieten things down and gave them what they want. The youth of today is not the type of youth when you go home, your mother is going to beat you. The youths of today, they're not afraid of prison and they're not frightened of dying. So it's a totally different situation we are seeing. So, you know, we're going to see a lot more changes. And that is the reason why, you know, we're hoping to see in politics next time younger people that could understand what the youths want, that could understand their frustration. What was happening up in Guelph today, I see it as the young people, people are tired, you know, they said people are fed up of people lying on their neck. People are frustrated, people are tired, and that is what you are seeing. You're seeing a lot of that. When I see this thing was happening in Guam, I know they're protesting against their friend. But I believe deep down, people are tired.
Kalistra.
Well, Kitaka, you can't make an omelette without breaking an egg. Yes? And while no one wants to see violent action in the country, while one does not want to see buildings being destroyed and property being damaged and infrastructure being damaged and people getting hurt, we do not want that. We all strive for a peaceful nation where our people's well-being comes first, and everybody's relatively happy and comfortable. This is what we strive for. But sometimes circumstances do not enable that to happen. And sometimes the citizen can only speak in that way. Now, for a long time, Grenadians have had no no platform to be heard. Not to speak, they speak, but to be heard, because no one has been listening. The thing has gone, way off the reservation when it comes to having a decent country. And what happened in Guelph today, I was surprised that it happened. We've been, laying down belly up for quite a while. So I was surprised to see people react that way. And I think, it's testimony to two things: the level of frustration of the people in the country, and how well loved and well liked this young man probably was within his community, that people became so angry at what they saw happening. Now, I noticed some of the comments where people were saying, oh, we don't mind the protests, but you can't go around burning things. But look what happened today. Vanny Cowan rushed to Guelph to speak to the people, to meet them at eye level. He didn't do it because he cares about Jamal Charles. He didn't do it because he cares about the people of Guelph. He didn't do it because he really is embarrassed at the behavior of police officers in the police force, because he's not. I've dealt with him. He did it because the citizens of the country stepped out and put their voice in action. The real citizen's voice, the voice that puts fear in the heart of those in authority, the voice of the citizen that scares them, because everything that they hold dear, everything that allows them to continue to oppress the people, which is a quiet, peaceful society, appeared to be at risk. And so he had to rush to Guelph and pull the wool over the eyes of the people and try to quell their anger. Um, so it wasn't, this is not how, things flow and they go, and a guy is found dead in the cell, and another guy disappears, last seen on the back of a police van, and then he disappears while in police custody, and so on. And nobody talks to the family, and nobody calls a press conference and apologizes and says they're investigating. Nobody does that. But today, when people started burning shit in the road, he showed up. And that should be a message and a lesson to the Grenadian people, that sometimes you really do have to break an egg if you want to make an omelette.
And Kalistra is interesting because that takes me to 1951 when Gary came back and so on in Grenada, and he led the general strike that really sent that message to England, like, okay, me, the little black boy, and my people, the poor people of Grenada, burn down the place. Like we're not going to stay under a thumb for any longer. And that actually was one of the major events that kind of propelled him into, leadership and to get the GLP going and to bring it to this point. You can go back to 1979 when the guys had to raid the barracks and take over things and take charge of the affairs of the country. So for me, like I think as well for me, I understand the frustration of the people because out on the street, people feeling it, the vendors feeling it, money and day, money and day, money and day, business of day for certain people. And there's a frustration not only in Grenada but all over the world where people fed up and sick of it and corona, pandemic, all kind of thing. And for me, what I think and I want and I demand from the people right now is that momentum that is that unifies us to protest and to speak out on issues. That energy has to be consistent, not only in being that the Batman figure that stands up for justice and ensures that the systems do things in a accountable way and get things done, but to also work together to put the productive sectors in our country moving forward. Because I think as well, we are a lot of way behind in terms of ensuring that our agriculture is more robust right now and food production is up. Because even today, I was speaking to a friend of mine. Because there's not much international commerce and thing going on in certain areas and things not flowing as it used to. U.S. currency is scarce for some countries. I was just researching yesterday. Lebanon inflation rates go way up because of lack of trade and so on with countries, and how that can affect countries that is heavily reliant on imports. So I mean, what I'm saying in essence is that right now, apart from just standing up for justice for these kind of like the issues, which is very important because police and everybody in the ministry, we need you guys to be in a tip top shape and do things proper for the country. But we need to be working together to produce and to strategize and to plan and to really put things in an upward trajectory. Because if things don't start to improve for people, it's only a matter of time before the ticking time bomb explodes where the people who can't really take it again, no negotiation, no nothing, and things could be like how Trinidad is, when men pull out the gun and decide, well, if I can get justice, I go want to get for myself, and we don't want that. Everybody want peace and order. But we understand the threshold where we at as a country. If we don't unite ourselves now and work together and plan food and take care of ourselves and eat healthy and boost up ourselves and care about each other and stop fighting down each other, we are not going to make it out of this in a healthy state. You understand? So for me, I think when I look at all of these things and all the little things boiling up here and there, that is very important. But I want to ask you guys, people have been saying that they're not hearing from the Prime Minister, they're not hearing from the ministers, they're not hearing from the people in authority. What is really going on? Like, what do you guys have to say on that? Like, where is the national security minister? Where is the parliamentary representative of the areas? All them kind of things. Like, what is going on, Mr. Dario? What is going on?
In Grenada,
Kalisha like I dropped too much I think on all of the one time, man.
I will
the thing
defer to
is,
the guest.
Kitaka. All right, thank you.
It's
In Grenada, we have an issue, right? We have an issue where those who are being paid to protect and serve do not protect and they do not serve. Video, you would hear the civilians and you would see the civilians, they are the ones who is taking the body of the gentleman and trying to place him into the vehicle. We have seen the officers sitting comfortably in the van, knowing that this young man is at risk of dying. There was no urgency on the officers' part. In fact, they just only allowed this gentleman to be placed in the back of the vehicle, in the trunk. You know, somewhere that you would throw a bag of potatoes or something like that. It shows their appreciation for life. Now, that doesn't only reflect that of those public servants there, the police officers. It shows the same level of interaction and understanding and empathy that the persons in authority have. Go all the way to the top. For instance, I just told y'all that even the Governor General refused to see Mr. Curtis Thomas, although in the Constitution she has to see him, right? We have had the case where Conversation 473 has brought treatment, fair and illegal imprisonment of an asylum seeker in Grenada just a few weeks ago. But the Minister of National Security, no one from Legal Affairs, has made a comment. No one, right? The media has to go and actually try to pressure a statement out of them, and all we are getting is lies. This is something that continues to go unless the people of Grenada really stand united and get these persons who are being paid to protect and serve. Unless we go to them and ensure that they are doing that, this will never happen. As I said, if we look at different countries where there's a shooting such as this one, or a situation where an officer is involved in some type of corruption or misconduct, or what could be misconduct based on perception, you would see the person in charge coming and making a statement to the people of that country and asking them to have no fear. We are going to ensure that justice is served. We will leave no stone unturned. We will get these persons out of the force. Now, just recently, about 2 weeks ago, a gentleman with two children, one was 5 years old, one was a baby. They were walking somewhere in Grand Anse, and a police officer from CID pulled out a gun on them, shot in their direction to the air. This gentleman is supposed to be suspended. Based on what I'm seeing, this gentleman continues to work in the CID as a police officer, right, who shot into a crowd just about 2 weeks ago on active duty. That means he was not even put on desk duty. He's just there. Kitaka, this is the Grenada we live in, and people need to recognize what it is, right? We need to stop pretending and acting as if everything is all well and good. Yes, we have to have faith in the Lord, but at the same time, God helps who helps themselves. And He has given us the ability to help ourselves.
Miss McQueen, one second. Miss McQueen, Miss McQueen, I have a question for you before you jump in. Your partner Brian said the PM does not want to micromanage as there are established institutions to deal with specific issues. What say you, Miss McQueen? What going on with your boyfriend? I don't hear him. Why you ain't saying much?
Well, I don't
He
want.
he didn't get his porridge. He's still feeling a
You
little.
hear Mr. Steele is saying he's going to sue the person that said he's Brian. The guy said he has nothing. If Mr. Steele sue him, he ain't have nothing, and he have a pig. But Brian, I can't open my mouth and say too much because I have something, and I don't fancy after working so hard for it in England having to go and be sued for it. So this
Miss
I will
McQueen.
pass. But I
Miss
must
McQueen, you
say,
sorry. sorry.
Miss,
The joke is
Miss,
the video. The joke about the man in the bus that talking about still. Damn me weak.
I am Kitaka, don't go there. But what I will say, when you say where are the ministers, where I am very disappointed. You know, I'm speaking as a business person, as a businesswoman, in working in two constituencies, St. George's and Clabony up there. I have never seen any representative. And you know, there was a time we had nearly 40 workers, even visiting, coming, speaking, saying, telephoning, nothing. It seems like these people and them are duppies, like they jumpies, like they does not exist. You don't see them. Somebody said to me, the only time you see them is around election time. I've never drove in any of these areas where I can say, oh, this is the representative for this area, or this is the representative for other area. You don't see them. And if you see, I know I think it's Peter David, that is the representative in St. George's. I think I've seen him once in the ghetto. They just don't care. They don't care of anybody. Maybe they care about the foreign investors, but for the local people, I can say I don't think they care. They really do not care. So where are them? So if we go killing each other, I think they'll be running and taking cover, because now it would have been nice if the person that represents Guelph went up there with the police, and she should be bringing the police up there and speaking to her people. But it just does not make
He
any
should.
comments.
He, Mr.
He,
Dario, Mr. Dario.
yeah, he should have,
He
it's so nice to see if he had gone up there. And as Kalistri said, and you guys have said, speak to the people and say, it's unfortunate what has happened, but I'll make sure that there is a full investigation, and then I will come back and we will speak about it. It seems after election, these people just disappear and then they come out again when there is a new election, which is a shame. I was passing in my community today, and they have a big concrete place they call a center. Nothing happens there, so it seems like they get cheap material from China or wherever it is. They build these community centers, and the only thing maybe that people may hold there if somebody die in the village, but there is nothing. There is no craft. There is not things to show them. Listen, we have now is mango season. There is no machineries to say, let us try and make things. So it seems like they give people things, and then there is nothing. So people look at something big. I mean, Kitaka, you know where I'm talking about. They see this big place there, and it's empty right through the year. So as you say, where are they? It would be great. It would be nice to see if they will come out and say something.
Well, the politicians have never had to come out and say something. They speak when they need to manipulate the citizens, when they need something. And if they don't need something from the citizens, then you do not hear from them. When it comes time to be caring and concerned about the citizens, you certainly don't hear them. It would have been nice if they would have, after what happened in Guelph today. I'm sure some people were worried about seeing things burning in the streets, and so we haven't seen that in Grenada in decades. If someone would have come out and say, it's okay, we have all faith that the police will investigate properly, and we ask the people to be calm and to wait on the police. And, whatever nicely couched speech address they could have given, but no, they would not come out. They never do. It's only when they need something from the public, and they need something once every 5 years from the public, or on occasions when they want to do something underhanded with our institutions or resources, and they need to come out with some sort of damage control statement. That's when they would speak to the people, but not when the people are in pain, not when the people are in emotional turmoil. You do not see them and you do not hear them. Look, in the UK, they can't even find Keisha Grant. She's the High Commissioner in London. There are Grenadians out there who are homeless, who can't afford their medicine. But when they call, they can't find her at the High Commission in London. She's the no-show. And it's not just her, it's here. I mean, the ministers have all disappeared. Since COVID-19, they went into a hole and somehow lost the map to the door of the hole because they're not coming out. And that this is a time when they need to come out. This is when they need to stand with their people, when their people are in crisis. Unfortunately, we suffer from battered voters syndrome in this country, where no one is going to remember how they did not stand with us and how they allowed us to suffer, and they will put them back in power for another round of suffering. Just like a woman who gets beaten up by the man who comes next day and say, "Oh, I love you, I would never do it again," and gives her a nice pair of shoes, a pair of earring or something, and she's back waiting for the next night when she's going to get her ass cut again. So the people need to hold the politicians accountable. And what happened in Guelph today, earlier on Sunday, that sort of action that frightens the authorities, that forces them to deploy their forces against the people, and so on. Sometimes that's where the conversation needs to go, because the civilized conversation is not working. And so sometimes the uncivilized conversation is what is going to draw attention to the situation. You make enough noise, and then eventually you can sit at the negotiation table. Sometimes you have to break the egg before you can sit at the table to eat an omelet. And so, yeah, Kitaka, I'm not surprised that we're not hearing from them, and I don't think we're going to hear from the Prime Minister on this. I will put money on this, that we're not going to hear from Dr. Keith Mitchell on this incident in Guelph at all. I don't think he would consider talking to the people in this instance a priority. Who I would have liked to hear from today was the Commissioner of Police with an emergency news conference. Because if there ever was a situation that warranted an emergency news conference from the police force, it was that incident today. The fallout from the shooting and the way the people reacted and responded, someone needed to say something to the entire nation about it, because you never know. Some guy who can't feed his children up in Grenville might have been so angry and frustrated and seen what happening in Guam and decide to burn some things up there too. And before you know it, across the country, people will be protesting. And especially when we have a situation now where there's a fire, a fireside primed and ready, waiting for the matches to fall out, waiting for the matches to fall on it. We cannot afford to have those lit matches going, just being there, because one of those lit matches is going to fall on that well primed fireplace, and it's
Yeah,
going to be worse than what we saw in the video.
yeah, and I think also, Kalishta, to all the issues, what is very apparent to me is the need for, like, using the RGPF and these institutions to produce information in a quick manner, readily available to the people, so that the facts can be in the discourse as well. Because when that is not done, because even today, up to 1, 2, I still was sketchy and stuff. I'll make calls to people, try to hear what's going on, but like a clear statement out, okay, this is the facts. The guy went to do this, bam, the man was shot, bam, 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 this is what happened. You understand? So at least the people could use the facts as the basis of any kind of discourse. And that also creates a room where, as they say, the fake news or whatever would come in, and there is the potential for misinformation to be disseminated widely. Because on social media, everyone is a journalist right now. Because while going up there about 6, 7, 8, 9 different lives, so people could view what's going on and make their own opinions. So I think as well it's very important, even for journalists as well, to file stories quickly and get things out, so we could have the facts out there. And there was someone in the chat who was saying why mention and why bring politics into it. But I think it's important to understand Grenada is a very small country. Most of the small countries here, everybody know what's going on, and the government has strong influence in everything. And if we have an institution of the RGPF that is known for not being so effective in terms of and efficient in terms of doing their job, and has to be pressured significantly through the media to get things done, even when it's pressured, sometimes when you go to the court system as well, which is not with the police, things take long for people to get justice and so on. Then people have a right to kind of take things up a notch, to at least try to get things addressed, where from a policy level, from a structural level, infrastructure, human capital investment, whatever needs to be done to make sure that the RGPF and the other bodies that are there to protect and serve are at the tip top shape. Because we are fortunate in Grenada that we don't have a whole set of guys with guns ready to shoot, because our police are not even equipped to deal with that. I mean, most guys might have a cutlass or not even anything at all. Grenada is not that of a violent place compared to other countries. So, I think for me, it's important. I mean, when things are, right now, things are boiling over all over the world. So I think our prime minister and our ministers and our heads of government and so on should be readily available and out there with the press team or whatever, putting out information about these things. Because it's, as Kalishtra say, tensions are high, people are frustrated, enough people out of work, enough landlord ain't getting no money, enough businesses have to shut down, and people are frustrated. And if that frustration continues to build, then you never know what could happen in the future. So things have to be, if we want the peace to maintain, we have to act swiftly, and information and facts and things need to be out swiftly, so the people could be on the right page to move forward.
And I noticed on the chat, a lot of people, the chat is a little hot tonight, and a lot of people are defending what doesn't even need to be defended. They're defending the government or defending the party or whatever, and talking about things being political. There isn't anything without politics, right? I mean, if you don't want politics, go to the church, and I think there's politics there too. There's a difference between partisan politics and taking sides and politics. And we cannot always make that excuse about, oh, we're too political, we're too political. What we are doing is shooting ourselves in the foot when we put that excuse forward. Why are people always so concerned that you're being political because you protest about something that is going wrong, because you're concerned that the Constitution is not being respected, that you're concerned that your healthcare system is not being properly managed, that you're concerned that your police force is not properly financed and your officers are not properly trained and psychologically and get the proper psychological evaluation they need in order to carry firearms. It's not political. It's being a good citizen. It's not partisan politics. It's being a good citizen. It is doing your job. As citizens, we have a job to do. Not just a job where we go and collect money and we work and collect money. And we have a big job to do as a citizen of the country, and that is to look out for the country and make sure the country works properly. And it's all politics. To those of you there who
Kalisha,
believe that we're picking on Keith Mitchell and his band of people, it's all
I
politics.
totally agree with you, Kalisha. We don't agree on most things. It's very, very difficult to have a debate with most Grenadians. They take it so personal. You don't have to agree with my view, or I don't have to agree with your views or your opinion, but let us talk about it. And at the end of the day, we can shake hands and walk away. If somebody is having a debate and they do not agree with what you are saying, they become very aggressive, they become very offended. It's not politics, it's a discussion we are having. We are having a discussion about our police getting the correct training. We do not know what happened, and obviously there is going to be an investigation. But that does not mean we cannot discuss it. We have to get over that, because, and that is where the victimization comes in. The people that does not want to listen to other people's opinion. These are the bullies that we find in the workplace, in the ministries, in the police, in the hospitals. Because somebody has an opinion and they do not agree with it, they will bully you. So you find most Grenadians are frightened of speaking, because if they speak up, they may lose their job or they may not get that job. We have to stop that. We were living in a democracy where people can open their mouth and say what they want to say. That does not mean you have to agree with them, but allow people to give their opinion. This really upsets me. Sometimes I see something and I want to give my opinion. I remember that when I had my problem with Spice Months, there was a young lady that went on there and she spoke about me. I don't even know who the person is. I've never seen her. I don't know her name. And everybody, we were all laughing because we was wondering, who is she? Allow people to speak. Allow people to give their opinion. I may not agree with what Earl have to say or Kalistra or Kitaka have to say, but I will never come at them in an aggressive way where I will try to bully them. This type of bullying tactics that we use here has to stop if we are going to move on. If not, they're going to get very aggressive, and then that is when we're going to have the fight. If you skip, it's like having a pot, a pressure cooker, and it's just heating up and won't explode. And you know where it's going to come from? It's going to come from the youths.
And Miss
You
McQueen,
see,
before you comment, one quick before you comment. But that our conversation for 7 is a great example of that too, because even on here, we talk about a wide range of issues and have polarizing views shared here, and we still maintain our togetherness and continue working together. And I think that this thing where I spoke about, Miss McQueen, is single-handedly one of the most crucial things that has kept our country divided here, where people cannot have an objective discourse and speak about things where you could synthesize what the left from the right and put it together. Like, because this is destroying the world, who is far left, who is far right, who they here, and everybody just want to hold on to where they're at and just fight against each other and have a war of words on Facebook. You know how hot I just feel sometimes when I go on Facebook and I see people just cussing each other about simple things that we could just discuss. That's why sometimes for me, I don't even reply to comments on Facebook and things. I just post and move, or I don't even go on Facebook at all, because sometimes it's like we cannot just be mature enough to have our views, hear somebody else's views, and we could all still maintain a love and a togetherness, but differ on the mental realm of ideas and intellectual discourse. So for me right now, we need that crucially. And we need that if we are to move forward in the country, we need to be able to listen to everybody, because the voices that are not heard are the voices that are going, the people that are going to be stressed out. And when they reach to the point where they can't take it again, and they start to act like mad people and just start to kill people and burn down the place, everybody will be like, oh God, what happening? But you, in your position, had no empathy and was not looking at them to even listen to them and give them a voice to speak out and vocalize how they feel. So we're walking on very dangerous ground, and the censorship and the bullying on social media of alternative views and points that is not with what the people and them, what certain people want to be disseminated, needs to change. We had to get all the opinions on deck to build our country.
So just to further elaborate and simplify what you all just said, and to strengthen it by simplifying it, because apparently people do not understand the duty of a politician or the duty of an MP for an area, right? Because when 15 persons were elected into government, those persons were elected to represent the persons living in their constituencies. So if someone is calling on Minister Gabriel to come forward and to represent the persons in his constituency, there's nothing wrong with that. This is what he campaigned for. He campaigned to represent the people in his constituency, which happens to be St. John, right? So he should have been there speaking on the people's behalf, whether they voted for him or not, because he took on that duty. No one asked Minister Dario to come forward and present himself. He did it on his own. It's like a school. A teacher is being paid to teach every child. If the class has 32 children in it, and the teacher has a problem with 5 children's parents, that teacher has a duty to teach all the children, all 32, right? And not 27, all the children. It doesn't matter what your personal feelings are. Why is it politics? Politics is everything. What is politics? What do our politicians do? They sit in parliament and they sit in their offices, which we taxpayers pay for, and they pass policies and laws and so on. And it is their duty to ensure that the offices and the persons in the independent offices, as they call it, it is their duty to ensure that these persons do their duties. They execute the legal duties of their offices. And if they do no such thing, then our politicians must get involved. Now, when we are saying that police, the duty of a police officer, according to the Police Act, the law that guides the police duties, when it says that police officers are being paid to protect and serve and to prevent and detect crime, these are things that politicians passed. No one sat in a room shop and passed these laws. These were passed by our politicians. And this has not been, it has not, persons have acted contrary to these policies and these laws. And it is the duty of our politicians to come forward, right? So politics is everything. Politics would determine if I could hold this pen in my hand. Our politicians could go into parliament tomorrow and just say, you know what, it's illegal to hold a pen in your hand. And by doing so, I would have to drop this pen. Politics is everything. It is life. We continue to be very uncertain and act uneducated when it comes to partisan politics and to politics. And we all as citizens have a duty to hold the persons that we are paying accountable. Now, what hurts me is that we have a lot of people that continue to go into the small stores where people are being ill-treated. For instance, let's say the personal businesses, probably an ice cream shop or something, or an Indian store. We look at the garbage men and we look down on them. We look down on them. If a garbage man is passing outside your home and he leaves one can or even he leaves a shell from an egg on the ground, we're so quick to judge and call them and tell them, listen, you're not doing your job. This is what you're being paid to do, to pick up the garbage, right? If we go into KFC and we order chicken and we just get the fries, we're quick to speak to the manager and we're quick to tell the people, this is not what I paid for. But this is not what we are paying for right now. We are not paying people to shoot our citizens. We're not doing that. We're not paying politicians to travel to Europe and America and everywhere to sit comfortably in parliament buildings. We are paying them to serve us. And I believe that we need to take out this honorable from in front of the names. How could we have servants and we are calling them honorable? Persons that we are paying to serve us. If we go into a hospital and a nurse simply walks away because she has 50 patients to deal with and it's only her, we are quick to go to the media and say, listen, this nurse did this, the nurse did this, the nurse ignored me, the nurse did not take care of my whatever, of my mother, whatever. But when it comes to the politicians, we seem to be so quiet, right? The silence is so deafening that the corruption continues. And this needs to stop. We really need to stop this, and we need to educate ourselves as to why we have persons representing us. We're not paying them to go to the United Nations and shake the hand of the Queen. This is not what we're doing. It's to looking at our best interests. So Mr. Dario had a right to go there on the bridge. It was not Mr. Killer's job to go and speak to the Community Relations Department. As far as I know, Mr. Killer is not receiving any taxpayers' monies to speak on behalf of the people of Guelph. That is the duty of Mr. Dario. And if he cannot fulfill that, then he should either step down or step up. And this is what is supposed to happen to all the other persons that have been elected, that have put themselves up. This is ridiculous and it has to stop.
Well, as you're saying that, I know of an incident where a woman was beaten up by her husband, and that person is disabled. And their representative called, instead of calling the wife and finding out if she was okay, call the husband and find out if he was okay. And having a business here, what I do find, business people don't want to speak up because they feel if they speak up, they're going to be victimized. And people have said to me, Miss McQueen, you speaking up, they're going to come for you. And when you hear things like that, it is frightening. I've seen people that has been done to them that shouldn't have been done. I met one young lady that thought of the idea of Grenada Expo, and somebody in government took the idea from her, and this lady was actually crying, and she was a young woman. I just even put up what Sasha McQueen has said there on the chat. She said that whenever you share your opinion in this country, people come at you because they don't understand your point. And what happens, they get other people to join them. And a certain amount of fear comes over you. So you become scared to speak out. That's a young person. Isn't it sad that a young person is saying they are scared of speaking up, Palishka? If the younger people are saying they are frightened of speaking up, what are we coming to? And then we're asking the children, the young children that have been sexually abused, to speak up. If those in their 20s and their 30s are frightened of speaking up, those in their 50s and 60s, how do we expect young children to speak up when they've been abused? People, we have to give each other a chance. That does not mean I am right or you are wrong. Just allow each other to share their opinion. And and at the end of the day, we are one. We will come to the conclusion. We will make the right decision. But a decision cannot be one-sided. It cannot be only your opinion. And if somebody said something, it's the same thing we have with the situation with the dog. 2 months ago, we had an incident in Wester Hall here, where another Grenadian man got a cutlass and killed a man for the dog. And I heard a recording on on Facebook where the person saw the incident that happened. And she said the man was just chopping and chopping and chopping the other man with the cutlass. And she said she saw the man died in front of her. And do you know what somebody said? Oh, he was an old thief anyway, so I don't care if they kill him. Come on. That's what the person said. I couldn't believe what I heard when the person said that. Oh, he was an old thief.
And
And we have,
and then we talk about what wonderful people we are. A guy gets shot today, we get angry, and then somebody comes and sweet talk us, and we decide to have a road block, a road jam, and a block and dance after that. And we talk about how great we are. It's such a confusing situation when you think about Grenadian people and how they react and respond. Um, and just to put our situation in context, it's sometimes really sad. On the issue of the representative saying something in light of the incident in Guelph today, and I think there's Brenda Phillip she made quite a few comments. By the way, Sasha McQueen, I totally agree with what you said. I was going to comment on it if Miss McQueen didn't. You were very much on point there with that. So yeah, Brenda Phillips seems to be a little upset as well because we seem to be picking on the Honorable Alvin Dabrio, which is not the case. If I was advising Alvin Dabrio in PR and public relations, I would say to him to speak to the people of Gore, not about the shooting, because that has to be investigated officially. And no one knows specifically what has happened yet because there's no official investigation whether somebody needs to be charged and what's going on. That is going to come, it's going to be resolved through the process of an investigation. But what happened after the protest in the community, the blocking of the roads, the burning of things, the anger of the people, it has to fall in the play on the lap of the representative to respond and to say something to his people, not just for the people of Guam, but the people of the country who are looking on and seeing all of this violence going on. I mean, this thing could have, quickly spread island wide if the people of Guam did not decide to stop and have a party and drink rum afterwards, which is so disappointing to me, by the way, people of Guam, whom I love so much. The fact is, he could have come out and made a public statement to tell people that he understands the concerns that they have with this happening to this situation occurring, and that he begs them to be calm and to obey the law and to not be quick to judge and to wait on the police, and that he himself is waiting on the police investigation to see what's happening, and yada yada, that kind of thing, to calm his people down. You can't just sit there as a representative and watch your place burning to the ground and you're not going to say anything. I mean, were they waiting for the thing to get worse before he said something? He really should have come out from an optics point of view, from a public relations point of view. He should have come out and said something. But you see, they are not used to speaking to the people in instances like that. So they wouldn't even think about it. They wouldn't even feel obligated to speak to the people about that, about their anger and the acts that they committed in Goa. He really should have, and didn't. And so it's not about him, Brenda Phillip, it's not about him speaking on the shooting incident, which has to be investigated, but on the people's action afterward. This is where he needed to say something that mattered to the people, because this could very well continue. I mean, I'm sure Vanny Cohen promised the people that investigation, and that investigation is probably not going to happen. I mean, we have so many incidents. The police shot one of their own and then killed a guy claiming that he's the one who shot the police officer. A guy disappears from the back of a police vehicle. No one knows what's happening. So I don't know whether or not that little chat that was organized by that Calypsonian in Gove is going to reap any results at all. And I think that the people stood down way too quickly. They're not going to get results. Weeks are going to pass, and that's going to be the end of it until someone else gets shot in Grenada. They're not even going to get tasers as a result of what happened in Goa. They're just going to continue shooting people and reacting and responding. And I don't know if that anger at the public that the police have, because the police don't, the police have an animosity towards members of the public. And I don't know if it is as a result of when Brenty was stabbed in front of KFC years ago. A youth, a teenager, stabbed a police officer in front of KFC, and it was one of the first times in a long time that a police officer was killed. And I sensed from then a change in the attitude of the police force in engaging the public and always feeling they need to protect themselves from the public, that the public is a danger to them. Ever since then, it developed into a situation where the police is always very busy to attack the public, that it became an us versus them situation that has gone on for 20 something years, up to this point. And I think he's one of the few police officers who was hurt on duty in Grenada. So, this continued animosity towards the public seems a bit, extreme, really, in all of this. Guys, we're out of
Kalishta.
time.
Kalishta. Oh, you're out of time. Okay. I was going to say something. This is actually a very unique year for Grenada because we're not having any carnival this year. So there's no Soca Monarch, no time to play Juve, no time to really get that stress out and whine our sorrows away. So it's interesting to see how the rest of this period is going to be with people not having that heavy sense of distraction, and we could really look at some of our social sores head on. And for me, I think it's very important for us to use our energy and our momentum to plan, to strategize, and to execute ways in which to take Grenada out of the hole we are in right now. Because remember, we're off the back of a pandemic, and we can't afford to go down further. So I really, really hope, and I urge everyone who's looking at the show, everyone who may see the show at some point, like, this is a time for us to really working together seriously and get things moving forward. Like, we can't waste any more time.
It seems like Brian
We're,
Grimes,
we're,
he always seems
we're
to
still
have
a,
some
we're
very
still a wine and jam nation.
Brian Grimes, it seems like he's planning something. He said there is no way that is going to go down like that. There is no way. So, as I said, Kalisha, I think you have somebody with you. I think, but he seems to be agreeing with you. So.
But Brian is also saying,
Actually, no. Brian is doubting. Brian is doubting my pessimistic view that nothing is going to come out of it. That he believes that an innocent man being shot in his own home. Our country cannot be that far off the reservation and that far gone that nothing is going to come out of it. So, but after 20 something years of being a journalist in this country and actually paying attention to the affairs of the nation, even long before that, I would be surprised if something comes out of this that is satisfactory, that is just, that is fair, that is factual, comes out of this. So I hope that Brian's hopes and his dreams of a well-functioning, normal Grenada comes true, because that's what I want too. But after decades, I'm seeing a situation that is worsening instead of getting better. And so I'm going to have to hold my position and wait and see if Vanny Cohen did not sell a pie in the sky to the people of Gore and set them on the road to dancing today, when a party is not warranted.
I think the politician and them frightened of COVID. Maybe they know something we do not know. So they're staying undercover. Remember, we have to keep them safe because just in case anything happens, they have to be the one ruling. So we can't, they cannot be like Donald Trump and coming out and telling people to come out. They have to be take cover.
Somebody just mentioned about the police officer, and the commissioner of police talked about it at his last news conference, that somebody was hurt. A police officer was hurt by someone who threw a stone at the fisherman's birthday celebration. I'm not sure if it's being raised to raise a question in our minds as to whether or not the police were so quick to pull their guns out and shoot because they're all upset because one of their own was hurt at the fisherman's birthday celebration. But getting hurt in the line of duty is no justification for your brothers in blue to take revenge when they go out on a report Their mandate is specific. There are specific things that they must do. And the person, whoever threw the stone, must be arrested and charged and prosecuted. This is what we expect as citizens of the country. This is how our country is supposed to work. And when the police goes on an operation, they should not shoot at an unarmed person. And if a family is in the veranda rushing the police, then the police should know self-defense tactics and all of those and tactics that you can take an offender down without using lethal force. I mean, lethal force is a last resort. And all the information we have is that none of those people were armed with anything that could be perceived as a weapon during that incident in Guam.
But as
Well, of
thin
course,
as
we await the investigation to find out what has happened, and the investigation where the police is going to be investigating themselves.
It'd be nice to see the person that the police officer, been put on paid leave, and they have a full investigation. So you don't have to walk through with all that stress, because it must be very stressful for him as well. But as you were saying, Kalisha,
I doubt that.
there could have been children in the house, because I think they went looking for the brother, and the other brother got shot. The innocent person gets shot. So sometimes, was it something they couldn't wait until he come out of the street outside? They couldn't have picked him out in the street, or was
No, I
he
mean,
somebody?
if the police has a warrant to execute, they have every right to go to the home and execute the warrant. They have every right to use justifiable force where needed. But the information we have so far, which is all preliminary information, raises a lot of questions about how the police conducted themselves. Earl?
If the commissioner, the acting commissioner of police, did his job, right, and he came to the forefront to show the people, look, this is the information we have, whatever is going to happen, we would have known. Let us look at the neighboring community, the neighboring island, Trinidad and Tobago. Commissioner of Police over there, Gary Griffith, is always holding emergency conferences anytime there's something involving police officers. In Grenada, we had to sit and wait on the commissioner of police, the acting commissioner of police, to find out what the outcome would have been or what had transpired, right, from the Evan Smith situation. We actually had to sit and wait. Now, Saturday morning, that happened that Friday, this gentleman, Mr. Smith, came on to the news. Saturday morning, around 10 o'clock, I sent the commissioner and Mr. Cohen an email to find out exactly what it is that is happening, right, to their direct email addresses. Now, there was no response even up to today. We had to sit and wait on Mr. Edwin Martin till he pleased himself and came out on Monday, although he was aware that a protest was going to happen on Saturday. All he did was send a few lines after 1 o'clock. So I sent this email to him asking him to clarify some certain things, right? He sent a few lines to the public asking them to be calm. And that was it. That shows the level of responsibility and integrity he has as a public servant, as a top public servant, mind you, right? And this is things that we need to step away from. Now, someone is saying that Minister Dabrio, a lot of attention might have turned to him and a lot of violence. Now, if the police officer who shot the young man, that no violence was brought to him, why would they turn any violence onto Minister Dabrio? Was he the one that shot the person? If we allowed the person that shot the young man to walk away or to drive away, right, in a hearse or whatever it is, like Cinderella, if we allow him to drive away, what would really happen to the representative from up there? No one would do him anything. He's always, I'm sure, driving through St. John's, nobody's business, nobody knows him, he knows no one. Allow the man to do his job and stop trivializing the man's duty to the people, right? The people in Grenada are not that bad. We're not warriors. We haven't killed anyone, right? We're here and we're seeking answers. And that is all it is. If the people They didn't even burn a police station or anything like that. They chose to burn a tire. They didn't break any vehicles or anything like that. They didn't hit any police officers there this morning. Instead, they stood and they chanted, "We want justice." And that was it. There was no violence there this morning. So why is this gentleman afraid to show his head? This is crazy. This is crazy. There were police officers who are armed there to protect the minister. If this is what we are using as justification for his absence in duty, there were police officers there to protect this gentleman. So where was he? Where was he? We need to stop and really think about what it is we're saying. Some of the things that we type, it makes no sense. It's just we really need to stop this. We need to hold the people that we're paying for accountable. We need to take these situations seriously. Now, we are speaking about justifiable force. How do you shoot someone? Even if somebody throw a stone at you as a police officer, you're not supposed to react in any anger. It's in the law. The law says that the police officers are not supposed to react in anger. They are not supposed to act without fear, right? They are not supposed to act with fear or favor or no ill will to anybody, no ill will. What we saw was a gentleman bleeding out who could have been in risk of dying from a bullet from a police gun, just like Mr. Bruce Briggs, who was shot in the leg and bled out and died, right? In 2016 by a superintendent Lee, who is now in charge of the prosecution department, right? Mr. Bruce Briggs bled out. We saw the man today, the young man today, he was bleeding, he was thrown, he was placed in the back of the vehicle like a bag of potatoes, while the officers, the emergency responders, the persons who were responsible for wounding this man, for bulleting this man, they sat in the vehicle comfortably and awaited civilians to do what they are being paid to do. And yet we are here tonight and we are justifying the absence of somebody that is collecting taxpayers' monies. It's either he gets out or he steps up. As simple as that. There's no excuse, right? Very simple. No, Kalistra, I agree with you that a pie was thrown into the sky. Let us see if it happens. This is not the first time Mr. Vanny Cohen has made a promise to someone. Now, I have started a show on Facebook every Monday just dealing with police brutality because it has so many cases that persons are not aware of, or they don't even make it their duty to be aware of. And we continue speaking about being our brother's keeper all the time. But what are we really doing to be our brother's keeper? We have this type of mentality. Once it does not affect us or a family member, we simply do not care. Now, Mr. Vanny Cohen and the Commissioner of Police were supposed to get back to me since last year about a gentleman that after my investigations, I found out that he was killed at the Grove police station and his body was dumped in a dam in Palmis up in Grove up there. I went in to see a written statement. The Commissioner of Police was supposed to call me back since last year. Mr. Vanny Cohen, same thing. I had to go to ACP Francois to report Mr. Vanny Cohen of his inefficiency, right, on duty, refusing to look into this case because it was some police officers that were involved, that was said to be involved. They have refused. When I started the show 2 Mondays ago, I got a call from Mr. Vanny Cohen the next day because I brought this to light on Facebook. I actually get a call after waiting for almost a year, after going up to the office and having these 2 big adult males running around the place, hiding like some little children. I actually got a call from them because I went and put it on Facebook. These are the kind of individuals that we're dealing with, right? So whatever he said today, I have no faith in Mr. Vanny Cohen in investigating any matter, especially when it relates to police being involved. I'm speaking from experience. This is something that continues to happen. He sat there during the times and said, where persons came and reported police brutality? Has he come back since that time and said that 14 or 10 or 20 or 27 or even one of these cases has been closed? No, he has not. How many cases have we had over the last 10 years that I have been traveling consistently, walking that hill of Fort George, going to the commissioner's office, even before Vanny Kerwin was there, when Sylvan McIntyre was there, Mr. Trevor Rodney was there as well. I have been going through all these struggles with all these victims that we have in Grenada. We have so many victims, and nothing is happening. These people are just sitting comfortably in CRD and in the commissioner's office and everywhere. I sent an email to the commissioner's office 3 days ago. I had to send back a next email telling them that I would expect some professional courtesy, at least an acknowledgement of the email. 2 hours later, I got it. These are the people that we're dealing with in the police force. The PSC is a waste of time. They continue telling persons who go to report the failures of the Royal Grenada Police Force that they need to seek asylum. They told it to me, they told it to Mr. Curtis Thomas, they told Mr. Paul Noel. These are gentlemen that went and had official statements in police stations. These are gentlemen that went to the Community Relations Department of the Royal Grenada Police Force and broke down into tears. Big men, 60 years old and 55 years old, broke down like little children, speaking about how they have been brutalized by police officers since 2013, 2014, and 2017 and ongoing. These are gentlemen that were thrown off of their own lands by police officers in Grenada without a court order. We continue to see the failures, but yet still we are making excuses. It makes no sense to me. It makes no sense, and we need to stop this nonsense, and I will continue doing what I have to do. And Mr. Vanny Cohen, if he's going to call me tomorrow, I sent him an email already, and I told him I have no faith in him. He has no integrity, and every communication, I want it to be in email so I can present it, right? We need to stop this thing because it's going to get worse, and we don't want it to get worse, right? Easiest thing to do is get these two individuals out, get an independent investigation, put the cameras on the police officers, give them longer training, start letting the DPP do a job. If he can't do his job, get him out of there. Kalister, your case, it broke my heart that you were a victim by some persons aligned to the New National Party in Mount Rush. You did everything that you were supposed to do. You went to the police, you made your complaint, you went to court for the time that they gave you, and then they asked you to come back. And because you got back late the second time, so you were there the first time. The second time when you got back a little late, although the report says the commissioner of police versus these people, not Kalistra versus these people, the commissioner of police versus these people. The police had your statement, and this is what they were supposed to use. You were just the virtual witness. They could have asked for an adjournment, but they threw out the case. And then there were persons in Grenada that were saying, but how Kalistra could do that? How Kalistra could do that? Kalistra is supposed to be representing women in Grenada. And a pile of nonsense. This thing is sickening. And it needs to stop. It really needs to stop. This is madness. If it was a case with marijuana, this would have been ongoing. It would have been to leave, go nowhere. But because it was Kalistra Faria against the NNP administration, it was thrown out on the first day. We have cases that have been going on in the courts for years, 10 years and going. This is the first day that we're speaking about. This is crazy.
This is Grenada, and it's enough to anger. You know, I saw Brenda Phillip is quite lively on our chat tonight. I don't want to comment on my suspicions about Brenda Phillips' political affiliation. She might get angry at me now. She's angry at you. at the moment. She described you as irrelevant and having political ambitions. And that demonstrates up the point, the problem that we have. That there you are, you have been speaking out against police brutality, you have been speaking out against poor health care, poor education, the oppression of the Grenadian people. Okay, you have been a champion and a voice for the voiceless, Earl. A gem, pun intended, in this nation where we are craving champions. And she is calling you irrelevant and dismissing your position when she should be supporting you. That she seems to be defending the people who are hurting us. And I have a problem with you who have been speaking out. Your issues, yes, you have a political party, but certainly your political party is not big enough for us to even assume that the stances that you take and the positions that you take are designed to take down any government. Okay, your party is not fielding 15 people. Your party doesn't have millions of dollars to contest an election. Your party doesn't have control of the parliamentary elections office and that kind of thing. So your position as an activist is being disrespected by her comment. And she is not alone in that position. And that's why I keep saying Grenadians keep buying their trouble and buying their trouble and buying it quite comfortably. They go to the market of troubles from the politicians with their cash and their baskets, and they just load it up. And sometimes you wonder, those among us who want to fight and who want to speak up, you sometimes you have to ask yourself, is it even worth it? But then, if you're a freedom fighter, you're a freedom fighter, and you just keep going forward. In spite of the Brenda Phillips.
Is it Sabina Mitchell that says, somebody said on there that her finger likes to itch, so she's better go. And sometimes when I see comments on Facebook, my finger is itching to make a comment, but I said to myself the same thing. I think I better don't say anything. I just disappear. Because if Earl has political ambition, I think it will be fantastic. Well, I know you have political ambition, and I would love to see in the future young men like you. I've seen you campaigning for kidney. I think the only thing I don't know if you do it for everything. I think the only Viagra I haven't seen you campaigning for. To give them all men. Maybe they're drinking too much Montpure now, but I see you campaign for everything. And it is so nice to see a young man take time out of his time and doing the jobs, what people that are elected to do, and I hope you don't stop, Earl, because you really gives a lot. It does not matter what time of the day. I have known of situations where people have called you and you would leave whatever you are doing. I wish some of our politicians would take a page out of your book. And I really do hope, I would really like to see in the next election that you are playing a major part there, because we really need young people like you to get in there. I don't have to agree with your views or any of them, but we need young men like you that will stand up and speak, because you have a lot to lose. You've just started your life, and to be able to come out there and be so vocal. When we were doing the young politician, people were scared of speaking up. I had so many people that said to me, I'm not saying anything. So, I'm happy that you are strong. It's the same like with Kitaka. You guys are strong young men. And, I don't care if you're in breadfruit and yam until whatever it is, but and some mangoes. But you are speaking up. And that's what we need. We need a little continue.
What I say, Miss McQueen, like I dream of a day when we could be able to speak and share and not get so emotional. And Brenda, we love you, Brenda. I love you, Brenda. So don't feel like they've been
Yes,
singled out,
Brenda,
Brenda. We
we
love
love
you.
you. Yeah.
Conversation 473 family is like a kitchen inside there. Sometimes things get heated. But we love you, Brenda. So don't feel no way about being singled out anyway. It's not that. We love you and
And
your opinions.
the fact is we gave her an active role in the program
Yeah,
tonight.
man, we love you. We love you, Brenda. We love you. But some people just block and delete and do this kind of things. We love you and we appreciate you and thank you for spending time and sharing your views and articulating how you feel because we all have to put our voice into the free. But guys, we have to wrap up in a bit and I had a couple
And
couple of thoughts
all
going
the
on.
other viewers who have been bullying Brenda, don't bully Brenda.
Don't bully Brenda, please. We
But if
love
I
Brenda.
Respect her
say
position.
it's her opinion, and we respect that. 473 is
Right.
all
So
about people having their own opinion, and we all respecting someone else's opinion.
Kitaka, you
I
may
just
got a
want to,
final point to make before we go.
yeah,
Okay,
let me,
Final points.
Kitaka, then
okay.
Earl. Kitaka
Uh-huh.
goes before Earl, and
Yeah.
Kitaka, Earl, and then me because we are going to close it down.
Yeah. All right. So for me, first thing I want to say, like I saw some leadership from Mr. Killer today. So I have to big up Killer for some leadership in terms of, rallying the people and was able to manage things and not have Guav descend into chaos. I think reason prevailed. I like to see the unity amongst the Guav people who has always been a
It's
strong
not the
voice for
season for
standing
reason,
up.
though.
I wasn't say that again, Kalistra?
I said I wonder if it still is the season for reason in Grenada.
Well, I mean, we in COVID, people don't have money right now,
Can't
so they
make
can't afford to go and burn down.
can't make an omelet without breaking an egg. People are hungry
Yeah,
for
but but at least
omelets
I
in
like to
this
see the
country.
swift. I like to see the swift unity and so on of the people, but I want the momentum to be used more for us to fry some of the bigger fish we have in the country. Our food security, our health and wellness. People need to be eating healthy. See how we could make ourselves more resilient. If the boats and the planes and so on with the food stuff cannot come in. We need to take care of the vulnerable people in our country. We're tired of the talking sometimes and the nice words, and from the top, we need more action. The people in Grenada now, we have to unite and work together to make sure these systems and them is efficient. You understand? The police officers need training. They need to be fit. All the big belly and thing have to cut out. All the drinking coke and drinking beers and thing after and getting fat have to cut out. You have to be fit and have the psychological training to deal with certain situations and so on. So for me, I feel like there's a lot that need to happen. We need that body cam and thing so you could be accountable. So we have that recording going and that we could look back. So when something happened, we could say, show us the film, show us it from the POV. You understand? As college study, point you made was very, very important. Less lethal ways of dealing with conflict and dealing with people who are aggressive and so on, the tasers, the pepper spray, whatever, which would make things a little bit more manageable. I feel for the family in Guava and the mother who had to see her son get shot in front there. How he's a promising footballer and his leg got shot. That is like his tool to make his living and to push forward. But I think overall, for me, I think Grenada, I mean, people are stressed out. The frustration is boiling, and we need to see how we could channel that into progressive ways to put our country in a better position to come out of the COVID pandemic situation and economic unemployment, people with the home working on 20% salary, no salary at all, landlord trying to put you out, grand leg coming behind you. So it's a boiling pot, and we don't want that pot to boil
Okay,
over.
Kitaka. You know what the problems are as long as from here to Grandin. So you're gonna save some for the program tomorrow night because of course we'll be back tomorrow night. I hope the family thinks about filing a lawsuit against the police if the young man was a footballer and getting shot in the leg. They have they can put that in a claim, and especially if he was the wrong person that shot him. Of course, the details of the investigation are not clear yet on whether or not they can. But there's a lot more room, and the burden of proof is much lower in civil cases. So the family should consider that. I don't find we sue people enough in Grenada. Earl, you had a final point. Go ahead.
Yeah, just the final thing. I just want to say that when I was younger, I was a cub, then I moved on to a scout, a teacher. I had no political endeavors whatsoever. In fact, I never even had a voter's ID card until 2018 elections, right? I have registered GEM as a non-profit, a charity organization with the government of Grenada, where I was teaching, right? All up to now for free. I have been a patriot of this country. I have earned a right to speak about matters that where taxpayers' dollars are being squandered and stolen by persons in authority. In fact, the first time that I ever voted in an election was for myself in 2018. Now I continue to do what I do, not because of political ambitions, it's because of God. I have gotten 17 votes last election, one which included mine. But I continue, whether I would win or lose, I would continue. And what I'll do tonight is before I get to bed, I'm going to pray tonight and every other night for persons who are like this person there, discouraging people from continuing to do the right thing and for speaking in the interest of public morality and in the best interest of Grenada and human beings who live in this world. I want to encourage everybody to continue doing what you're doing. Honor God. Do what God tells you. Be a brother's keeper. Don't just say it, but do it. Right? So y'all, thanks for having me on the show. It has been a pleasure once again. God is good. And we will continue. Win or lose.
Issued an apology and tried to explain her situation. So it's all love. She might become one of your canvassers for the next election. You never know. Charlton Maitland, stop pulling up my chat with your brother's campaign thing. Do you see what he's doing, Earl? Did you see? He has we voted Métis. That's Earl's brother. Coming out swinging for his brother. So now Kitaka is signaling me. Is that the river is signaling me or you?
No, I thought my mic was muted. I was asking all if you're using our platform to campaign.
No, not at all.
Charlton doing a very good job there. He put about 10 vote Métis. So it's been a pleasure.
Charlton, we are going on for all, man.
Brotherly love. So thank you for being on, Earl. As usual, your contributions were very valuable. Your insight into what's the state of affairs with the police and the relationship between the police and the public, as usual, very valuable. You have been a great strength in some of the matters that I have had, and when a lot of people were ducking and running and hiding, you stepped up with no bulletproof vest on. You stepped up in the line of fire for me, and I always remember that. Even if I'm in a profession of strength, a journalist, you were my strength at a time when I was going up against the big green machinery of the New National Party and the government, and all of the people who have benefited from your strength, from your activism, are much better for it, and I'm sure they all will continue to support. Kitaka, Rolanda, it's been a pleasure as usual. Aren't you guys happy you gave up your rivers and your wine to come out tonight to talk about?
Well, I'm voting for Earl. I'm voting for Earl as well. I'm voting for Earl. Earl, you got my vote.
What I say, Kalisha, actually, this show has been one of our most viewed show ever. It was a very heated show and have a lot of people online tonight, and the comments was very vibrant.
Oh,
so,
yes,
Mr.
we had quite
Otland,
a few comments.
Yes. Yeah. So, guys, it was fantastic. Thank you for speaking up and standing up for the people of Grenada and putting things out in the forefront. Conversation 473. And it was so nice to see how we could all have opinions and then still be in love. Brenda says she's actually going to be voting for you all. So I think Brenda has a little crush on you. So maybe.
Oh,
I'm voting for Earl. I'm voting for
Earl blush.
Earl would make a fantastic prime minister. I think Earl was the same age as Maurice Bishop, isn't it, Earl? Or were you older than you?
Yeah, you see, whatever God have in store, it will happen. I might not even be here in the next 3 years. You never know. You never know.
You're a blessing to the nation. You'll be here. Although the people like you always go early. But so stop saying that. You're frightening me. So thanks everybody for being on the program, for making this one of our most viewed programs in the history of Conversation 473, the panelists and the viewers, thank you so much. I will be back on Monday night, tomorrow night, to continue the conversation on what's a lot of things happening in the country. So lots more to talk about during the week. Have a productive week, everybody, and stay safe and support your
Bless you.
country. Bye.